Hey guys, Brian Savage here with you. And Obi, he's made it out to the shop and found that he hasn't been in the videos, so he had to make his presence known, and he's got dust all over him from being up on the bench. I recorded another one on this one. I said I was going to show the layout and how I did that and went about that, and I didn't end up recording. I thought I did, but I didn't. Remove my boo-boo tape. On the delay, I already went through the overdrive. On the delay, I'll just explain it. First, I tape it off with masking tape so I don't scratch up anything like that. And then what I do is I showed when I did the overdrive, I kind of just set the components kind of on here. Now, a couple things you do need to take in mind of is when locating this stuff. The first thing I did was I soldered this switch onto the PCB board, and then I stuck it in there with nothing else in there. I stuck it in there. This hole wasn't here, and I measure with my calipers from this edge to where the edge of the PCB board was. Then done the same thing here and then put it on top of it. And what that allowed me to do was find the location for this here. Now we know it's center, and to find center I of course just measured like that and divided that in half. And I made a center line all the way down the center because this, and this all hits that center line. And this is the one that had this is the one that's very important to locate, because if you get it too far back, you won't have room. Your battery goes right here. Your battery goes in there. So if you get it too far back, the battery doesn't fit. If it's too far forward, the PCB board won't fit in this. It'll hit right here because it spans from there to there. Just beyond the switch all the way to the edge. So that's the first thing I laid out. After laying out the location of this line, I made sure, I had to turn the heater off, I made sure after I located this line on my center line, then I drew where I wanted this and just made a little X across the center line where I wanted that. I did the same thing with this, making sure I left myself enough room. To do these two, I held the knobs up there, made a line, went across. I used this little thing here, and it's come off a circular saw, battery-powered circular saw, and this helped me, make my line across here nice and straight, line across there for those two knobs so they line up. And I guess I should have done it like that, what I did to find out where to, after I made this line across, I measured half the distance from my center line to the edge, divided that in half, and that's what gave me my knob the hole for this. I already have my line across here, divided it in half, made a line down through there, made it all symmetrical. This hole here, it was, again, I had a center line. I made sure I just centered that down the center line. And as far as how far this way or that way, I got it this way farther than I did this way, due to the fact, again, the PCB board is right there. I wanted plenty of room, so I moved it up, but I didn't want it so far forward that it was against the chassis on the inside. So it is not center. It's actually a little far closer to the top, but not much, and that I just kind of guessed at, just kind of eyeballed it and made a line across the center line. This is probably the most, after doing this, these are pretty easy. This layout here isn't real tough, and it doesn't have to be exactly precise how far down forward you get these things. Do make sure whenever you do this, you want to try to keep it as far forward as you can, so like this LED legs and stuff doesn't get in the way of where excuse me, where the input and output jacks, because these are big squares that come in here, and that's why these are difficult to locate. One, they cannot be centered this way. They cannot be centered. They got to be a little farther north, up that way. The reason is in fact, they are all the way against to where the bottom of the little black square inside here, plastic square, rests against the bottom here and here. That way I have maximum room for wire or the components on the PCB board. You know, some of these components, it's right in here. And then they say lay down, lay down, lay down. You lay down these components. Well, that gives you some room, but you also have the wires that you got to get up to from down here up to this side. So that's wires from down here up to here. You got to get those wires up there, and those have to go, you know, over, around, and between these two jacks. You could offset them a little bit, but I didn't bother. I just made it to where everything went out and everything fell between and all that kind of stuff. So that's my top tip on that. And then as far as location goes, you know, you can put this, once you've drilled this hole, you can stick that PCB board in there and you can kind of tell where that space is for these holes, how far forward or back. If you want an exact dimension on how far I did it, let's see here. We'll go to the center of the hole, or approximately the center of the hole. It looks like 1.931 inches to be quite exact. But again, it wasn't, I didn't exactly mark that out. The only thing I did do was I figured out where I wanted it for one side, and then again I come across like this and made a line all the way across so this one would line up. Again, you could offset these depending on how you want to build it, and that's the beauty of having these build your own pedals, is you get to choose the layout. So this is not how it has to work. This seems to be how, from the schematic with laying down certain components, how they assume it's going to work. But like the location of the LED, I could have put it up here, I could have put it over to the sides, I could have done all kinds of things. I just like to keep it in a line right there, and it's real easy to see. It's, you know, your foot's here, so your line of sight's down this way, and the only downfall is if you do have your foot on it, you can't see the light, you know, if you're pressing on it like this, but then you're going to be kicking your knobs and stuff too. You just toe tap it. Also on this delay, and this is for, again, for thefretwire.com. This is where I got it from, and this is something, if you get one of these, if they don't change it, this is something you need to be aware of. This resistor right here, that one right there, I'm sorry, that I just drew that arrow to, it's a 12K resistor, okay? And on the PCB board, it is listed as a 2K7. As a 2K7. Now, the 2K7 is actually, there's only one of them. And that's the only place where a 2K7 goes. This one here that's marked 12K on the schematic is a 12K. But again, this is incorrectly marked 2K7 on the PCB board screen print. How I come to that is I used there was only one 2K7, and I saw that there was a place on the PCB board for two. I looked at where it was differed. This one differed from the PCB board, so I assumed that was the correct way. They had mislabeled this one on the PCB and had it right on the wiring diagram. That's why, you know, looking at this is really important too, making sure you get your legs correct on your potentiometers. You know, red and black in positive negatives, not too hard. This is not too rough. Another thing on this schematic, on the one that I got printed for the overdrive,
This is supposed to be PWC, and it's cut off. You can see how the copy's been cut off, and it just comes out VC. And you're like, where's that go? Well, that goes to PWC, and PWC, there's another wire that goes into it from your input jack, is located right there, and that's clearly marked. But it's just on this here. There's nothing on the PCB board to show you what this plug's supposed to be. This is the back of the DC jack, the power jack. That there. And it has 3 prongs on it, and to know where the wires go from each one of those 3 prongs, this is what you use. And again, it just got cut off, but that's supposed to be PWC, not VC. Easy enough to figure that out, though. Overall, I gotta say, quality of components. I haven't plugged this one in yet. I just finished this one 5 minutes ago, and it does. I'll show you here. It does come on. Another little thing I do, maybe I'll just tell you. You might figure this out on your own. I'm probably sure that you would, but I turn all the potentiometers down all the way. Then I slip the knob on, and I kind of, when I roll the potentiometer, I kind of look and see how far it's going to go. But I put one knob on, and then I turn it the other way and make sure I'm kind of splitting the distance in half. And then to line them all up, I turn them all down all the way and stick the knob on, line it up with the other ones so that they all look good and symmetrical. And whenever halfway is halfway, you know, like 12 o'clock is 12 o'clock. I'm probably doing this and you can't even see it. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. But anyway, that's how I set these to how you put the knob on. You guys probably know that already. Anyway, I was saying that last night I got to plug this one in, and I gotta say, an absolute jewel. This thing had an amazing tone. My only, not complaint, but what I wasn't maybe entirely happy with is the tone knob in the overdrive, the sweep. It's not very much. It actually just, it's almost like the tone knob acts like a tone knob on a guitar itself. You can tell that it's all the way up. It seems to be filtering nothing, and then it's adding in, and I'd imagine it's probably one of those, all the caps in here are 0.47, you know, and I would imagine that I'm going to probably in the future, I'm going to take it back apart and I'm going to map out the circuit, the tone circuit, looking on the PCB board, and I'll find out the capacitor that this potentiometer controls, and I will probably change that for a 0.22 cap, just so it gives me a little more brightness, and whenever I roll the tone all the way down, it doesn't make it as quite as muffled. You know, a tone cap on a guitar, it doesn't. So basically what I'm saying is this is not a treble bass knob. This tone knob is more of just like a tone knob on a guitar is how it's reactive. The drive, this is not a distortion pedal, this is a drive pedal. So on a clean signal on my tube amp, unless I was really pushing the amp, I could turn this drive all the way up and still just barely get a little bit of breakup. But it really opened up the tone, saturated it. We were practicing in a small room, and I was using my head, which is 120 watts, 4 preamp tubes, 4 post-amp tubes. So needless to say, I had it on like the volumes on like 2 on the channels and on the master. So I wasn't able to push it and get that saturated tube sound that sounds so good when you push them up. This allowed me to get that sound at a reasonable volume and still get that sound of saturation in a clean. Now on the crunch, it really helped push it just right at the edge of breakup is how I set my crunch channel. And if I wanted to get a little more bite into it or some sustain or ring, I could boom, boom. And as far as I mean, absolutely silent. I could sit and click it all day long and absolutely no sound come out of my amp clicking. And it is bypass. So that's good. That's a sign of quality capacitors and components and things like that. The switch mainly. Overall, all these things really good quality. The housings, I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever. A couple little things that I think that if I was talking to my manufacturer in China, I would probably do like taping off the legs on the sockets as well as the chips so that they don't bend up. I had the potentiometer legs did the same thing, so you know that's something to be kind of aware of. But fit and finish, A+. I will definitely be building more of these. I will. I know that they make a fuzz, a tremolo, and a boost on top of the overdrive and delay. I think that's all that they make. I'm not sure. You can check out my Facebook page. You can check them out on Facebook. Check out their website and find out more on exactly what they do have. But they're all basically the same size and configuration. And I think the next thing I'm going to get is I'm probably going to do the straight up boost and the tremolo. I'm not a big fan of fuzz for my personal sound, so when I build it, it'll definitely be just building it for a sale or a giveaway or something like that. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. Any suggestions on things, maybe if you did this you would do it a little different, or things of that nature, always are welcome. And guys, share the music, share the love, please subscribe. Have a beautiful day.